Most people believe that an argument is a battle of volume. They think that if they can shout the loudest, talk the fastest, or hurl the most insults, they have won. They view conflict as a storm where the one who creates the most noise survives. This is the logic of a child. This is the behavior of a pawn. In the world of power, volume is a confession of weakness. When you raise your voice, you are announcing to everyone in the room, and, more importantly, to your opponent, that you have lost control. You are signaling that your logic has failed, and you have retreated into your primal emotional self. And the moment you lose control of your emotions, you have lost control of the situation. Niccolò Machiavelli, the master architect of power, understood that true dominance is quiet, it is clinical, it is a slow, methodical dissection of the other person's reality. If you are shouting, you are reacting. If you are quiet, you are observing. In any conflict, the observer is the one who holds the knife. Most psychology content feeds you comfort. I feed you the truth about how people actually think and behave. Tonight, we are going to strip away the emotional noise and look at the dark mechanics of persuasion. I am going to show you how to dismantle an opponent's logic, destroy their confidence, and win the war of ideas, all without ever breaking your composure. Welcome to the architect's level. Let's learn how to win the silent way.
Machiavelli argued that a prince must always appear to be in possession of himself. Your public face must be a fortress that reveals nothing of the internal struggle. When you enter an argument, your opponent is looking for a hook. They want to see you get angry. They want to see you get defensive. Why? Because when you are emotional, you are predictable. Your responses become knee-jerk reactions, and your opponent becomes the puppeteer. The dark rule. Your lack of reaction is your greatest weapon. Imagine someone hurls a personal insult at you in a meeting. A pawn reacts instantly with an insult of their own. They have been hooked. They have entered the mud with the pig. But a prince simply looks at them. Not a look of anger, not a smirk of superiority, just a cold, analytical gaze. A pause that lasts just a few seconds longer than comfortable. This silence creates a vacuum. It makes the other person feel small. They realize their attack didn't land. In their discomfort, they will begin to over-explain themselves. They will try to fill the silence with more words, and in doing so, they will reveal their own insecurities. By refusing to raise your voice, you are communicating that their words are not powerful enough to affect your nervous system. You are positioning yourself as superior without ever saying a word. In the game of power, the person who cares the least wins.
Most people try to win arguments by making statements. They say, "You're wrong because of X, Y, and Z." This is a fundamental tactical error. When you make a statement, you are providing a target. You are taking the burden of proof onto your own shoulders. You are giving your opponent something to argue against. The Machiavellian strategy. Stop stating and start questioning. Instead of telling them why they are wrong, lead them into a corner where they prove themselves wrong. This is the autopsy of a failing mind. Ask questions that force them to explain their logic in agonizing detail. That's an interesting perspective. How exactly did you arrive at that conclusion? What is the specific evidence for that point? If we follow your logic to its natural end, wouldn't X happen. How do we resolve that? As they talk, they will eventually stumble. They will contradict themselves. They will realize their argument is built on sand. And because they are the ones who said it, they cannot argue against it. You haven't raised your voice. You've simply provided the rope, and they have hung themselves with it. This is the art of the psychological mirror. You aren't fighting them, you are letting them fight their own incoherence. You are the observer, and they are the subject of the experiment. In every argument, there is a frame. The frame is the set of hidden assumptions that define the conversation. Whoever controls the frame controls the outcome, regardless of the facts. The dark rule: never accept the other person's frame. If you argue within their frame, you have already lost. Consider a common workplace scenario. A manager says, "Why are you always late?" The pawn answers, "I'm sorry, the traffic was terrible today." The pawn has accepted the frame that they are a failure who needs to make excuses. The prince reframes, "I prioritize the quality of my output over the clock. Is there a specific project or result that is currently suffering?" You have shifted the argument from your lateness, their frame, to the quality of your work, your frame. You have forced the manager to defend their focus on the clock rather than the results. You don't need to shout to reframe. You simply need to be firm in your definition of reality. Speak as if your frame is an undeniable law of physics. If you repeat your frame calmly and consistently, the other person's brain will eventually adopt it. This is how leaders are made. They don't win arguments. They define the space in which the argument happens. Machiavelli understood that appearance is everything. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. To win an argument without shouting, you must first make the other person feel like you are a collaborator, not an adversary. This is the agreement trap. The strategy: start by agreeing with a minor, undeniable part of their point. "I actually agree with you that the budget is extremely tight this quarter. You're completely right to be concerned about that." This lowers their guard. Their brain switches from fight or flight mode to cooperation mode. They think they have won a point, and their ego is satisfied. Then you introduce the but, or the however, the poison inside the honey. However, because the budget is so tight, doesn't it make more sense to invest in the strategy that has the highest historical return, even if the initial cost is higher? By starting with agreement, you have built a bridge. Now you can lead them across it to your side. It is much easier to lead someone to your conclusion than to push them there. A prince uses selective honesty to deliver the strategic blow. Sometimes you aren't arguing with a rational person. You are dealing with a manipulator, a narcissist, or an entropy engine, someone who thrives on drama and chaos. In these cases, winning isn't about logic, it's about starvation. The dark rule: become a gray rock. Give short, boring, non-committal answers. "Okay, I see. That's certainly your opinion." If they try to provoke you, look at them with mild, distant curiosity, as if you are watching a strange animal at the zoo. By refusing to give them the emotional supply they crave, you make them feel powerless. They want to pull your levers, don't give them any. Eventually, they will get frustrated and move on to easier prey. You have won not by being right, but by being uninfluenceable. A prince's time and energy are too valuable to waste on a street fight. If you cannot win the mind, starve the ego. Machiavelli understood that to win the war, you must sometimes appear to lose the battle. The dark rule. Give them the victory, but keep the power. A pawn will fight to the death over a minor detail because they need the ego boost of being right. A prince is looking at the outcome. If an argument is becoming unproductive, use the false retreat. Say, "You know, you've made a very interesting point about minor detail. I hadn't looked at it that way. Let's move forward with that in mind." This is not a surrender, it is a tactical repositioning. By giving them the win on a small, insignificant point, you have satisfied their ego. Their guard drops. Now you have the psychological space to steer the larger project or the final decision in your direction. Let them have the words, you take the results. Most people ruin a perfectly good argument by talking too much at the end. They win the point, and then they keep talking out of nervous energy. They dilute their power. The dark rule. Once you have delivered your strongest point, stop speaking. After you have asked a devastating Socratic question or reframed the reality, look your opponent in the eye and wait. 1, 2, 3 seconds. The silence will feel like a physical weight on them. They will feel an overwhelming urge to apologize, backtrack, or fill the space with more mistakes. By staying silent, you are forcing them to confront the weakness of their own position. Silence is the punctuation mark of power. We have dissected the anatomy of conflict. We have looked at the Stoic mask, the Socratic trap, and the power of silence. For many, this feels wrong. You were raised to believe being good means being agreeable. But is it moral to let a manipulator win because you were too nice to fight back? Machiavelli wasn't a teacher of evil, he was a teacher of reality. The world is a landscape of competing interests. Refusing to learn the rules is a choice to be crushed. Power is a tool. The world needs architects who understand the dark so they can build the light. If you are still here, you are no longer a pawn. You have the maps, you have the rules. Do you have the stomach to use them? Subscribe to stay in the shadows. Step into the shadow self. The world is loud. Be the silence that controls it.